in about a week, all of this will be planted in the garden. You can see how tiny my tomatoes are. But you know what? Plants want to grow. They'll catch up. They'll be fine. So we've got eggplants and tomatoes, cosmos, asters, hollyhocks, strawflower, lots of eggplant, lots of peppers. Oh my, that was a chicken. And then I'm finally getting a handle on this winter sowing because there is so much. So I'm down to these that are open, and then I still have an incredible amount. So it has become incredibly hot here. I think everyone is experiencing this like fall summer, and on Saturday it's supposed to be like 90 degrees. I sat outside in this shoulder, the sweater fell off the shoulder, and I didn't have sunblock on, and that happened in a very short amount of time. So it is really hot. So I am not planting anything during the daytime. I'm waiting till the evening, sun goes down, when I can plant, give it a nice drink of water because we're not getting rain, and then I know in the morning things should be okay. I have already lost a couple plants that I've tried to plant in the heat of the day, and it's just not working. They are wilting, and they're like, no, we can't do it. So I'm trying to be patient and change my gardening schedule a little bit. It is really nice to come out at like 6:30 at night and do some gardening. It's so peaceful. I wanted to show you this new space. It's a little corner by the chicken coop and the garden that's going to become a tiny cottage garden corner. Originally, I was just going to grow oregano here. I was just going to let oregano go crazy. We've decided to put it in a container and not do that. So I will be digging that up. Probably will be a few years before I get it all. And then for Mother's Day, I went and picked out some really beautiful flowers. So I'll take you through each flower and explain to you what's here. Okay, this first plant is called Meadow Rue, and I have wanted a Meadow Rue for a really long time. This is cold hardy down to like negative 20. So this is a great plant for me to have. This one is Nimbus Pink, Thalictrum. Nimbus Pink. I'm very excited about this rue. It grows to be, 28 inches high. Now, when you're doing your garden, don't put these tags that you get on your plants into the ground. Use something nice, like, find an aesthetic that works for you. I'm gonna do some wooden tags, I think, for this little cottage garden, but you also can take that tag, you can take these tags and you can put them into a little notebook, your garden journal, and then you'll know what you have. So you also don't have to tag everything. So this is Pearl Potion Lilac. The color was exactly the color story that I wanted. It's almost identical to the rue. Look at those together, really cool. All right, so that's the lilac. This one is a native plant. It's yellow twig dogwood, and part sun is fine, so this will work really well tucked into the corner. I actually grabbed this because of the flowers for right now, and that it'll give some winter interest when this garden is pretty much done for the year. And then we have two Jacob's ladders. This one is Touch of Class, and this one is Bressingham Purple. And you can see how very, very different they are. This one I got for the foliage, and this one is a variegated leaf, and this one I got for the color of the flower. Again, matches beautifully that little color story over there. Now this other Jacob's ladder, Polemonium, this is a hybrid, and it is a very deep purple. I am still on the fence about whether I'm putting this in, but I don't think it blooms for long, and I really wanted the foliage. That's a little departure from the color story. I will be getting more chives. I'm gonna separate this bunch into 2 or 3 and try to get a somewhat of a border of chives and rosemary. Then we have, this one is so pretty. I don't know that I've ever seen this color on a salvia. It's harder to find these more beautiful pinky colors. And this is Pink Dawn. A pink lemonade Baptisia. I am a huge fan of Baptisia. I have some in the front that I can show you, but this one is like pinkish, yellowish. It's just perfect for this color story. And then let's pop around. These are dahlias that are going somewhere else. I need to remember to walk slower. Okay, and then we've got this guy here. So Splendens Sea Pink. Splendens. Yeah, I don't know anything about this one, but this is the pink that's in the climbing rose that will be the backdrop for this entire garden. So that's why I needed to tie some yellow and some pink in. And then another place where the yellow is going to come through is this Euphorbia. This is Cushion Spurge. And these were a bunch of Mother's Day plants that I got when Dave took me out to a nursery plant shopping. And then I also added these 3 beautiful yellow alyssums. This is Golden Spring Alyssum, and these will go in the very front here with, I think, the chives and the rosemary mixed in. Once I start planting, I might change my mind, but that's basically what we've got going on for this cottage garden. And then I just came in, the lupin has already been planted, the rose is already planted, and I do believe there's a volunteer sunflower coming up here. I dug out the oregano and I dug out the potatoes that were growing. So now I just have to lay everything out. I've already edged the garden right here. So I usually prep these new gardens about a year in advance. I laid down cardboard all on here and just covered it with dirt. I dumped out a lot of the grow bags that had dirt in them, covered it with leaves, and it just was sitting. And the first thing we did is we planted, Shroomy, come on. We planted Dave's climbing rose. And this is Joseph's coat. It's a climbing rose, and our hope is that we're gonna train it to grow up along here. Okay, so the first 3 are in. We've got the Dogwood here, the Baptisia here, and the Lilac here. By the time these grow, you'll have a very clear covering from the coop right here. So kind of street view, this will look like just a beautiful cottage garden and really help to kind of make the coop look a little more beautiful. My hope for this garden, and I may be putting in more plants than will eventually stay here, but my hope is to fill it up really fast. So some gardens you can take your time and be patient and buy smaller plants. Because this is such a small space and I really wanted it to be a very fast pollinator garden with the kind of cottage feel, I decided to just kind of, pick out my Mother's Day plants so that they would be pretty good size, ready to go. And then as this rose starts to grow up along here, this part will also be covered. And it should be a really beautiful scene. All right, so now, let me show you what I did with the grass. When I pulled up the grass, we have this problem over here where we get flooding. So Dave's building a trench so that the water will drain. And I just took all the grass that I pulled up from that piece of edging and I put it right along here, and I'm just keep stepping on it. And so hopefully that'll fill in nicely, and then we can have our little trench here. I'll probably maybe put some wood chips in there and just see if I can encourage the grass just to kind of start filling back in here just a bit more. And this is the shade garden that's right around the chicken coop. I don't know if you'll hear me over the mower, but I just saw this tulip. These were the tulips I was so excited for. They're like a midnight black. They're really, purple, but look at that. That is gorgeous. And these are all like under the pear tree, the baby pear tree. Oh, it's so romantic. And then these guys are pretty much done, the red ones, but the few little black ones that we have in there. I'm saying black because I can't remember the name of them, but I'll find it before I post this. Look at this one. Gorgeous. The cottage garden is planted. It's beautiful. I've given it some water. I am going to bring a wheelbarrow of compost and add it on, especially back there to the lilac. But for the most part, and then this Jacob's ladder didn't go down deep enough. I'm really bad at digging holes, so I tend to build up. It's a really good cheat if you struggle to dig into your soil. Build it up. The only thing that's bugging me is how far these two are compared to these two. But this plant and this plant are very droopy and traily, whereas this one's super tight. So if it doesn't kind of compensate for that, I will move this one in just a little bit, because that will bug me. A couple things that are kind of cool is I noticed that we have the purple of the Jacob's ladder here is somewhat echoed in the purple of the Euphorbia over here. So it kind of helps tie that in a little bit. The pink and the yellow will make more sense once that climbing rose starts to grow. And then I just really like these muted pink lavender colors for the rest of it so that it's not too bright, because I'm color sensitive. On the other side of this fence, I'm growing yarrow. So I'll be adding some more yarrow, and there will be snapdragons if they actually take off. And so that will be on the other side there. And then if this rose works out, we'll have a rose over here. Got some violas there. And then our irises, our foxtail lilies, looks like they're about to bloom actually. And the irises are pretty close. And then the lilies will come behind the irises after that. And then my hope was that I would grow the tall sunflowers back in the very back of everything. We'll see if it works. So the next step was to put compost on. This is the next day, and it's our like crazy heat wave. So I really want to get this done so this bed will hold moisture. So it's just one wheelbarrow full, big wheelbarrow full of compost, and I just put it mostly around the plants that hadn't sunk into the earth quite as deeply, just to make sure that we have a good layer of soil covering all the roots. They'll eventually work their way down, but don't want to kill any of these guys. So then the next step is just probably 1 to 2 wheelbarrows of wood mulch, a natural raw from chip drop, the same thing that's on the walkways, on the outer walkways of the garden. The inner walkways, I think I've said this before, those have been decomposing for about a year, so you can actually see there's a pretty big color difference. Eventually these will look the same color as those. Okay, here's the finished product. It has a layer of compost and then a really thick layer of wood chip on top, and that will help suppress weeds, hold in moisture, and break down and feed the soil over time. I am just thrilled with how it came out. I think I'll probably end up popping some annuals in just to fill spaces while, because this year by the third year, it'll be very full and packed. This year, it'll probably stay similar to this. The annuals will just help fill in some of those spaces around. I was doing a ton of research about cottage gardens, like what is a cottage garden? What should you have in it? And nothing was very specific. And then I heard someone say a cottage garden is my hands are dirty, is an English garden that would have been planted right outside of your cottage. And it would have a mixture of flowers, aromatics, maybe some vegetables tucked in, and it would be planted really randomly and thickly, densely, all up along the sides of the cottage. And I thought, okay. And I'm obsessed with Monty, and Monty has his cottage garden, and it's beautiful. So that gave me the inspiration to kind of create this cottage garden on the outside of my garden. It's kind of like a cottage garden for the chicken coop, which I think is really cute because it is a sweet little space over there. But I'd rather see flowers than wire, the chicken wire. So, you know, the potager garden, which we're still working on what we're gonna do with that. But basically their typical potager garden was the French kitchen garden. The garden planted right outside your house where you would walk out and grab your herbs, grab your salad greens, maybe grab some peppers, and then grab your cut flowers to put on the table. So everything was right there in this small potager garden. And so I think of them a little bit interchangeably, except for the potager garden I usually think of with like more herbs and vegetables, whereas the cottage garden I think of more flowers. But I think that the more diversity you can add into the cottage garden, so right now I have chives and rosemary, but I will be adding more food elements into that garden. I just don't know exactly what yet, but we'll see. So if you are thinking of creating a little potager garden or a little cottage garden, and you want it to be nice and full, remember that you can always pull things out and replant them somewhere later. So you can fill things up when the plants are really young, more densely than you might be able to when the plants are about, you know, have been there in that space for about 3 years. So that's what I'm thinking right now, is just like cram it all in and then kind of pick and choose what I will use over time. As always, thank you for being here. Appreciate you.